And often if I go to large events, and maybe you recognize that, often at large events, panel discussions are mostly the boring sleep time sessions, if you ask me. So this is not the plan to make it sleepy, boring, the other way around. That's why I didn't share the questions up front, so they don't know. And they only have 2 cards. There's no orange card, it depends card here. And they cannot combine green and red, like that will be orange. It's exactly like that. It will be yes or no. And that's what I mean with RSS. So a little bit of Ruben's style in this panel discussion. But before I go to the questions, it's great that you have these cards, so you can also express your opinion about questions. But I think it's good to do a small round of introductions on this side. That's the easy one because he just finished this one. But Jim, I know Jim for a long time actually.
Very long time.
Good to see you again.
I used to have hair when we
Exactly. Before you got married, right?
Yeah.
Still has there.
Yeah.
Johan, might you briefly say like a couple of words about what you do?
Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah, so I'm Johan van Amersfoort. I work as a technologist on end-user computing and artificial intelligence technologies at IDQ Consultancy in the Benelux. And seriously happy to be here. It's a great conference. So thanks for organizing.
Nice shirt, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
Well, some people might disagree with the shirt.
Green, red, see?
So my name is Kees Baggerman. I work for Nutanix. I lead the efforts on end-user computing within Nutanix.
So sticking to the topic of shirts, I like your shirt underneath the Nutanix coat. No, underneath the GeForce one.
Oh, yeah.
So my name is Jits Langendijk. I'm a senior solutions architect at NVIDIA, focusing on what we call Quadro and Tesla technologies. And I'm helping our partners and end customers making their decisions.
All right, so I'm Mark. I work at Login VSI. Officially, I'm improving user experience all over, mainly focusing on applications, but I think most people know me because I break a lot of VDI environments and talk a lot about that. So, that's the thing there. I also noticed that you have to hand these back to your former employer at some point.
Yeah, there's an inside joke here, but no worries. There's some PQR on it, right? You saw? I saw it last night. I was picking up the cards as well. You don't see it, but it's like property of PQR, which is like 5 years ago my former employer. So sorry for that. Kudos to PQR then. Okay, thanks, Mark. Also, you can also ask questions to these great folks. If you can switch the slide briefly. If you go to slido.com, do you need to use the hashtag or just? That's the entry code. Okay, hashtag VDI Summit. Use your mobile phone or laptop if you have it with you, and then you can ask questions, and one of the colleagues will moderate that, and somewhere 2-3 questions along the conversation we'll switch back to questions, so please feel free to ask questions, and then we'll pick up a couple of these questions as well. So slido.com, hashtag VDI Summit. There's a reason there's just one microphone, because now I can control who speaks?
Well, I'm not sure you can.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a privilege, Jim. Good. Alrighty. So yes, agree. No, don't agree. That's the issue, right?
Thanks for that, Ruben.
Agreed.
We'd never have guessed.
The other way around. Oh, good. So no orange. Although we are here in Amsterdam, great. But no orange. It depends. And of course, you can explain when you have the microphone why you have an opinion about the question. Now they're all looking at me like, okay, now what's happening next? So this is the easy one. Cloud first doesn't mean public cloud only. There's a red over there, there's a red over there, green, 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 reds, reds, reds. Wow, cool. So many people think cloud first does mean public cloud only. Now you can decide who wants to explain what you think about this.
Well, pick one who had a green and one who had a red, right?
You all had green, right?
No, I had red.
Had red? Okay, then you can start.
This thing like, private cloud and hybrid cloud, I think it's kind of bullshit. Because you've still got the kit. It's not elastic. You're not paying on a consumption basis. You're not getting 200 free services along with it. It's just people trying to make themselves feel nice that they've still got a data center.
I see case like already like, okay, rolling up the sleeves a bit, see?
So what if, because you're talking about a consumption model, right? It's a subscription based, it's adding services as you go. What if you have a private cloud provider that can do that can add those services and can do a subscription based model?
So the thing with that is, even though I was just talking about limitations during the cloud, it's still by orders and orders of magnitude larger than anything you can do on-prem, while you're phoning somebody up and waiting for kit to be delivered through the door. And then you're saying, can you take all this kit back? Yeah, so you can say subscription model, but it's not as flexible.
Green, red?
Thinking about that. There's also some limitations in terms of flexibility. Obviously, you're just, if you're consuming a service, you're not able to kind of tie that down towards the specifications that you can do on-prem, right? So there's a balance there. In my opinion, a cloud first doesn't have to mean public cloud only, because you've got a very clear definition of what public cloud may look like. But do you need the 200 additional bells and whistles to actually get to the point where your business is requiring you to get to? That might be one of the decision-making points. And obviously, I think Ruben had a good point with this hybrid cloud theory this morning, where you were still flying in, so you didn't attend that. But I think that it's just ways to get to a certain point. So it doesn't matter if you're doing public cloud or private cloud or hybrid cloud, as long as you get your shit done. It doesn't really matter what the form factor is.
So fine with that, but that's not the answer to the question.
Yeah. Alrighty. The goal was also to have like multiple questions, so we can spend for sure an hour about this topic, right? But that's not the not the goal. Let's move on to this one. Desktop as a service eats VDI as lunch.
That's a weird question. You can do VDI as desktop as a service, single session or multi-session. What does that mean?
Very good. So what I mean with VDI is more like classic VDI, like we've done. And VDI not only desktops, but as a whole, like on-premises, broker is on-premises, and workload machines are on-prem. That's not exactly VDI, like we know as experts, but that's what I mean. And DAS is more control plane as a service, like WVD as the example, and many others. And then the workload machines can run in public cloud or on-prem.
Okay.
Green, green, red, red, red. Wow. So these questions are not so obvious, you see, right? Interesting. Mark, do you want to jump in? Yeah.
So, and luckily I can do the it depends. Today, today I don't believe desktop as a service eats VDI for lunch. But if we look 2 years ahead, if we look 5 years ahead, this will change major. I mean, Microsoft has joined the game, all the other players are there. So give it a couple of years. Everything is moving to the cloud. Whether you want it or not, it's a fact of life. And most tech sales is actually driven towards that. So you will see things moving there. And the technology is just ready. Not yet, but it will be ready in there.
You had red, right?
Yeah, I disagree. So obviously, so anyone who played the F1 simulator there? Yeah, a couple of hands. Right. So that doesn't work from a cloud, mainly because of the peripherals. So a steering wheel in this case is not suitable to redirect over the internet, but so is a 3D mouse at the moment. I had some true latency issues at customers trying to work from Azure or AWS using a device like that, and it just doesn't work because the latency is too big. With 5G and all kinds of technologies that are happening in the near future, that might solve in some case. But I believe it's basically due to the use case. So if your applications are suitable to do so, sure, it'll run on a DAS platform. But some applications just don't, and they won't.
Yeah, that's a pity if you're the moderator and cannot participate, right? But that's fine, all good. Okay, so you want to add something?
Yeah, I'll go before Jim because he has a different opinion anyway. Doesn't matter what I say, he'll have a different opinion. So when you say DaaS, does that mean just a control plane in the cloud, or does it mean...
I mentioned in my line, like the control plane is a service, but where the workload machines are running can be public cloud or on-prem. Then
to your point, that might not be the case if you run your workload on premises.
because
close to the
often with DaaS, we think it's all public cloud. For WVD, as the example today is, but well, pick Citrix Cloud as an example. It's not necessary to do so.
Yep.
So I got a question related to the previous question. So the question was
now becomes
about,
tricky. Now
about
Johan takes over.
cloud-related stuff. So in your opinion, is something like AWS Outpost or Azure Stack, is that cloud, or what is that?
So that's an interesting question because it does do the subscription model, but it still has the problems that we were talking about, the flexibility you need, to actually go and buy some kit and have it turn up. So for me, I'm not that keen on it. Now, there are definitely workflows where it makes sense. You've got an old client-server app. It's really latency sensitive. You need those VMs next to your database. I can see the use case for it, but I think it's an edge case rather than anything else.
Already. I see there are 7 questions already in the system, right? So let's pick 1 or 2 questions, and then we'll move to the Slido slide. WVD is the IKEA of DaaS. And
I mean,
is it green or red?
wildly successful.
So green is yes. Agree? A lot of greens here. I would add a couple of lines, but I won't, because maybe I should, because you can read it in 2 different ways. You could say, well, that means bring your own tools in the toolbox, do it yourself.
And you'll end up
Okay-ish, okay-ish experience.
You'll end up with screws.
I end up with whatever. That's one side. A little bit more negative side, if you ask me. Or if I ask a question, who has IKEA gear stuff at home? Everyone has. So it's an interesting topic, right? So let's go for Mark. And there's a couple of GPU questions as well. So after that one, for sure, Jits will kick in.
So no, I mean, it feels like the IKEA today, right? If you're trying to set it up, who has tried setting up WVD themselves or has looked at how that works? No questions here? Yeah. It's not exactly easy yet. Now, I would pride myself in saying that building all IKEA furniture is something I can do with my eyes closed and not look at the manual. But we have all realized, you got to look at the docs. If you don't do it, you're doing it in the wrong order. And you can't piece that last part in. I believe that's where WVD is today. But very much, again, looking at the future, being IKEA, not a bad thing. I mean, could be worse.
So everybody recognizes that current process is clunky, right? But that's not just everybody in this room. Everybody on the product team recognizes that. And so I've got demos that if I was actually doing a WVD session before, I would have shown the new UI and the new way of deploying, where so much of the stuff that is clunky is just gone.
Good.
So that's nice.
Good.
But okay, I'll carry on. You obviously want to move on.
Yeah, exactly. I'm looking for a nice GPU question. So GPUs for mainstream users are required in a modern VDI DaaS solution. This is tough, huh? This is tough. Yeah, I would like to ask Jits about his opinion about it. And I think, I know this question, you know this as well. This question pops up in conversations like we all have. So that's the question why I added here as well. You go.
Yeah, and it's a fair question. And I think Sven and Kees mentioned it in one of their slides where, there's been a couple of surveys where people were asked to rate their Windows 10 session, where it's poor, it's good, or it's excellent, where the bar actually shows that with CPU-only configurations for Windows 10, it's good, almost towards excellent, and GPU-accelerated VDI is excellent. So it's all about what is it that you're trying to achieve. When good is good enough, just on CPU, well, go for it. But there's one tip I want to add to that, and please make sure that you have hardware when you're doing a hybrid solution or an on-premises solution that can be equipped with a GPU in the future. Because Windows 10 today and Office applications today are maybe running good enough just on CPU, but who can tell for the future? Most of the applications, but also Windows 10 builds, they tend to be more resource intensive, so at least be prepared for the future. But if it's good is good enough, then go for it.
Johan, did you have a different view or?
Well, a kind of a similar view, but I think there's one thing or one misconception on mainstream VDI. And when we talk about mainstream VDI, we're probably talking about a single full HD monitor. And people working on a Mac with a high definition display or on a Dell device with a high definition display suddenly start to get a different resolution. And if you talk 4K, that basically is 4 times a full HD resolution, which also means that it's 4 times the size of a single frame that's being transferred. Now, if you scale that up on a single host without a GPU, performance will definitely drop down. So sure, it's all about the use case, and sure, it might work without a GPU, but if you want to prepare yourself for future mainstream use cases like 4K, I think a GPU is essential.
Widescreen.
Widescreen, same thing. Yeah, it's essential. Plus, one thing that Thomas mentioned in his presentation about GPUs is that a lot of modern applications are being built with GPUs active in a physical device. So a lot of offloading, not only just graphical stuff, but also a lot of offloading is happening.
Remote protocol.
Yeah. Well, not just the remote protocol, but CUDA acceleration, for instance. There is a GPU, why don't you use it for computation? So a lot of applications are being built with that in mind, and run them on a VDI platform without a GPU, they'll drop down in performance. So,
Yeah. Jim,
So
go ahead.
when you talk about applications being built with that in mind, developers aren't having to make this choice. They're not putting code in there to make GPUs work. If a native Windows application was built on a framework after WinForms, so WPF and above, that underlying framework will naturally use the underlying GPU, right? So I don't care whether somebody's wrote a Notepad clone. If it's in WPF or above, it's using the GPU. So I agree with you, it's not required, but it's really nice to have.
Good. And let's switch to Slido. Is that okay? Wow. Citrix losing market, these devices work at home. All good questions. Any preferences, guys? What do you think?
Second one, welding machine.
Welding machine. Yeah, he controls the keyboard, right? He's smiling at the end.
So,
yeah, I'm
so,
just
so,
really,
so I'm happy to take that fourth one, or that one as well.
sure.
So Windows 10 multi-session will stay Azure only. Yeah. The only way you're going to get it on-prem is with Azure Stack.
Who's in? Let's make a photo of that.
So there's a whole lot of integrations happening with Windows 10, thanks, and other native Azure services, and that wouldn't be possible to do if we were allowing that OS to go out of the area of control that Microsoft has. And there are a whole load of features, like, we talked about in our session, like integration with ML, with Azure Functions, with serverless. There's a massive amount of stuff we can take advantage of, Key Vault, if that VM is sitting in Azure. And those features and that innovation just won't happen if we allow Windows 10 multi-session to be outside of the place where Microsoft has got control of
So
it.
what's the future of Windows Server then?
So 2025, October 2025, Office 365 Pro Plus will no longer be supported on a server OS, right?
So everyone needs to use Win 10 or Windows 10.
So
So everyone needs to use Azure. It's called monopoly, right?
So Microsoft, I like this. So Microsoft are taking advantage of the fact that they own both sides of that equation to bring value to you guys, the customers.
Say that without smiling.
I mean, Citrix did it with Zen Server and XenApp, right? Because they own both sides of that, so they can put optimizations in. Anytime you get a vendor who's got the chance, Nutanix and Frame are doing exactly the same thing, right?
Did you just say send server and optimize in one sentence?
Alrighty. I like it. I like the style. Good. Let's see.
So the first one, like what market?
Yeah. It's losing.
microphone.
Yep. Is Citrix losing the market?
Yeah, so what market?
Is Citrix losing the pace in the VDI server-based computing space?
Not really. I don't think so. Citrix is still unfortunate. So I have no. Look, I have VMware in my bottle. I'm a true VMware fanboy. But what happened to Citrix in the last 6 weeks is devastating to the EUC market in general, because it shows the Achilles heel of a solution like this. And so it's
Microsoft didn't do any better, by the way.
no, sure. No.
So Citrix Files or Citrix Files or Citrix, give it a name, is not about Citrix. If you ask me, it's about the challenge of like updating systems
Sure,
faster.
it doesn't give VMware or any other vendor a
It could happen to
competitive
VMware,
edge.
Nutanix, Microsoft as well.
True.
It
So
happens.
we need to figure out. All of us need to figure out how to avoid a failure like that. And I think that every vendor in the market has the same tools, the same type of tools to bring the best solution to the end user. And are Citrix losing the market? I don't think so. Is VMware winning the market? I don't think either. The same thing for Nutanix. The same thing for Microsoft. Everyone is doing their thing, and I think most of the solutions are quite comparable to each other. So,
Cool. When you share that story around like updating and the challenge customers have with and partners have with updating, what popped up in my mind is, isn't that a clear advantage for as a service? Because right now the issue you described and seen by many is because someone is responsible for updating this Netscaler or ADC.
So there's two problems here, right? The problem of getting the patch out in time, and then the problem of once it's out, getting applied.
Exactly.
Now the Evergreen solves the second one, but not the first. And I think that this 6-week problem with ADC, the real problem was not getting the patch out in time and allowing an actual attack to be formulated in the wild before you've got a patch out. To me, is a really bad thing.
Alrighty. Cool. Keep the questions flowing. Would be great.
great question.
Great question. Exactly. So thin client devices or thin client OS, called an Edge OS. It's hard. You only have
Considering I've got the mic, I think, and I apologize for everybody in the thin client market, but I think thin clients are the most boring thing to talk about. It's like my least favorite topic. Most thin clients are built out of the same equipment. The thing they can differentiate on is management software. The operating system itself, I don't care. Like users shouldn't care, you shouldn't care. You should care about manageability and performance and stability. What kind of operating system is running on top of it?
Who's in with green or red? Green, red, 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 green? So Mark has a different view then.
Yeah, so
So, Edge OSs are very popular now. I mean, you just came from Nashville, so there's something happening in the market. There's no discussion there. I believe half of us will be in Munich next week talking about these damn things. But I don't care about what's on the operating system of the thin client. I'm connecting to something else. For me, it's just remoting my keyboard and my mouse and my screen, and whatever it's connected to is more interesting. And like I think Jim said, it's all about the management. If that is easy, if that works out of the box.
Yeah.
No, you just turn it on. Oh, then Jim doesn't agree with that. Maybe we should.
No, I do.
check
I
what-
do. I agree.
So I think we.
Application layering. Exactly. So application layering can be like built into like Citrix platform or VMware platform, or I would say third party like Liquidware is a good example. But also Microsoft with MSIX App Attach isn't there yet, but is like starting directions in that, making strides in that direction. And MSIX is more like the, I'll say the format and the attach. Yeah. Yeah. So there's debate about if MSIX App Attach is layering. I agree, that's an interesting debate. But also Microsoft don't want to use app layering in the same position because they want to differentiate in themselves from the other vendors, Citrix, VMware, and Liquidware in this space. But it does help, indeed.
Like the power that Microsoft has is the huge ecosystem they can control.
Yes.
So if any vendor, any other vendor than Microsoft brings out application layering, that vendor has to play by the application, like the company that provides the application. They define the rules, and you just have to cooperate with that. As we've seen, Microsoft doesn't really care. They just do whatever they want, and you just have to follow their rules. And that makes a world of difference there.
So then it will mean over time that this is a big thing. Because if Microsoft enters this, well, and now I'm part of the conversation, that's not.
No, but
if Microsoft entered this space, then.
I think Microsoft does have the power to kind of reshape that market and have application developers rethink the way they deploy their applications.
So MSIX is just going to be, it's already built into all the development tools. If you've got a project in Visual Studio now, and you've got the latest version of Visual Studio, you just hit export as MSIX.
You mean Microsoft Visio, right?
Yeah, whatever.
Hey, Johan, you had a red card, right?
Yeah.
So do you mind to share?
Well, the applications suck.
In a VMware context, do you
Yeah.
what do you see in that?
Well, application layering sucks in general. Who's ever ended up in filter driver hell? Right. A lot of hands. And it's not just application layering products that have a filter driver. Antivirus solutions have a filter driver. There are tons of different solutions that try to live next to each other that don't. So the thing I'm kind of wondering, and I think Brian Madden presented about that same topic last year on this conference, is why not use or why not manage a virtual desktop in the same way as you would as a physical desktop, without layering, without profile solutions, without any form of decoupling OSs with other layers, and just manage the whole thing that you were also doing on a physical way. And I'm unsure if that's, it sounds like a really good strategy. We already have a couple of customers that are going full-blown in that way, and it solves a lot of issues.
Agree, Jim, or different?
So I work with a lot of large financials, and they've done that for years because they've got 40 or 50,000 applications, and going down this app layering for that many applications, it's like, well, I'm going to be finished in 7 years. So their approach has been to do exactly what Brian suggested, and they're managing their images the same way. They have a single image for both virtual and physical. They pay through the nose for this, right? Having that single image means they've got asset management software in virtualized environments.
Hey, Jim, that means that you just install the application like you do today.
Yeah. So
what is, in that context, what you described is sort of anti-MSIX architecture then?
So, as I say, this is what the big banks are absolutely doing. And you can keep that single tool set across virtual and physical. It will cost you 3 times more to run your virtual environment. And if you've got deep enough pockets and it's too much of a hassle to get to a stateless solution, it is absolutely available for you to do, and I don't mind if you do that. But a lot of the companies that we all work for, they don't have those deep, massive pockets, and they also don't have the same problem of 40 to 50,000 applications. I think it's a solution that's good for some people, but again, it's a very small subset.
Roddy?
If your organization just has like a smaller number of applications, let's say up till 100, that's easily manageable through layering. Well, easily, it's manageable through layering. But I don't know of a big enterprise within the Netherlands that has less than 300 applications. They just don't exist. And if they do exist, if they claim they have 300 applications, they have a shit ton of shadow IT and end up with 12 to 1,300 applications anyways. And one of the main reasons for going for non-persistent VDI was storage related, for instance. So we tend to use less storage. Well, I was at a customer yesterday that had pure storage. And they had a dedupe and compression ratio on full clones of 1 to 28. So that's a bigger compression than any instant clone or link clone will ever have. Well, maybe my neighbor has a similar experience on his stuff.
Yes. Okay. No, so while all these dedupe and compression ratio things are quite impressive, I think it boils down to architecture and adding complexity. Because if you do application layering, are you removing complexity or are you adding complexity? Yeah. And from an architectural perspective, you're adding complexity. And I've said it before, but as an architect, if I can keep certain functionality without, and pull out certain objects in that architecture, I will. If I can simplify it by taking out components, but I still have the same requirement fulfillment, then I will take out that component. So if I can do applications installed inside a guest operating system and still have availability for my end users, why do I need application layering?
So I think
time out. Okay. Because for sure we can talk for 30 minutes extra about this topic. Okay, Jim? Yeah. And let's switch to Slido again, because we have like 5 minutes left.
Okay.
And, that's what I understand, right? 4 o'clock is beer time? See? 4-ish? Okay.
It's like 3 in the morning for me.
Yeah. So. I'm with you. Yeah. So I'm curious. A question to maybe to Jits.
So do you want to take the third one?
Third one. Would complicate the environment management, where one batch of users are managed with WVD and the other in Citrix. Exactly. Thanks. Because there's no single point of view. Yeah. Anyone? What? Green, red. Will it complicate the environment? Green means, I agree, yeah, it makes it complicated. That's what
so there's 2 ways of looking at this, right? Because you can put Citrix Cloud on top of WVD and get a lot of the benefits of WVD. Yeah. And in which case, it's not native WVD, but you do get that single pane of glass. You'll be able to get the same thing with VMware Horizon as well. That's in public preview right now. If you took in on-prem Citrix and native WVD, yeah, it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah. Cool. Easy. Alrighty, let's switch back. See if we can pick an. Right? No. I'm curious what. I'm first curious what red and green. What your opinion is here? Green. Jits is not sure yet. I'm curious what his view is. Green. Red, green, red. Go ahead.
Well, in the end, what we do in IT is just provide functionality to end users. And no one ever asked for a VDI environment, no one from an end user perspective, right? It's more like an IT solution to centralize and consolidate all your resources and to ease the management. But there was never any end user who asked, well, I want a VDI environment. Maybe some C-level guys wanted a VDI environment because they heard about it.
No, nobody ever asked for Intune either, though.
No, but users are asking for mobility and flexibility. So this can be achieved with Windows 10 and modern management, where they can use a physical device both from a business perspective as well as from a personal perspective. So I do believe, as long as your physical device has a GPU, of course. No.
AMD,
The green GPUs.
AMD is doing great.
No, but
killing it
in the
right
end,
now.
it's all about providing functionality to end users. So if that's a VDI environment or a physical device, well, it's what the user will really needs in the end. You disagree?
So what I will say is that, to Jim's point, if you view DAS or VDI or end-user computing in general as one holistic thing, then this statement is wrong.
I agree.
Done.
New statement.
So just one statement on that. Just count the number of Windows 10 desktops that are physically out there versus the amount of VDI desktops.
So the fact Windows 10 and modern management doesn't exclude VDI desktop as a service. Yeah, that's the modern management in Windows 10 is the overarching thing, and you can do physical or virtual underneath that.
So why I added this question is that I would say once in a while, but more often actually, is that people with like VDI, Zen App, Zen Desktop, app remoting, virtual desktop, this whole industry background, they say, well, I'm done with that platform because, well, yes, it solved my needs and it still does, but I would just go for like the easy route with Win 10 and classic management or Win 10 and modern management. I see that, I would say, quite often happen.
If you look at that from a holistic point of view and it's all the same, then it doesn't really matter because you will still have a management plane. You still have to manage your desktops. It's either virtual or physical or a mixture of all of that. As long as your management is up to par and ready to go, then it doesn't really matter what the form factor is. So moving from a virtual to a physical desktop doesn't solve or doesn't have to solve problems.
Exactly.
As long as you have your management plane ready to go.
We are close to beer o'clock, I think 4 o'clock ish. Any last question? And I did bring I did read this book, so this is not brand new, just written once by me a couple of weeks ago, so the Unicorn Project. So one final first question, and we'll get this really nice book from me. Nobody reading? Nobody? No questions? Nobody interested in the Unicorn Project? Sure. Oh, yep. Oh. Here you go.
The events-based provisioning.
Talking to Q. Talking to Q. It's a mic.
I thought it was some random thing.
Other way around.
No, it's fine. It should be fine. Yep.
Jim, I was wondering about the event-based scaling.
Yeah.
And are there more examples that you could give than the ones you gave in your talk? Because that was quite interesting. And it seems obvious, like in the power industry, they predict when half-time is in the World Cup final and cups of tea are going on. So why can't we do that with VDI?
So there's kind of two things there. There's one which is event-based scaling, which is taking in events which are outside of that VDI stuff, like the walking in and with a smart card. The thing that I think, correct me if I'm wrong, with the question is, can we not do prediction better for VDI? And I absolutely believe that we can.
Yep.
And again, this is one of the integrations that I'm talking about with Azure. There is a great ML platform there. ML's great at learning this kind of data and doing prediction. And there's even a community, Marcel in the community has got a first stab at that already. And I think that what will happen is those ML models will start to bring in external events as well. And then, you know, you could take public holidays, or you could take the fact that there's traffic on the road coming in.
Azure outages.
Any possible cloud outages. But as once you get the basic model, right, you can then start expanding the variables that you take into ML apps, and then you can make it much richer and much more interesting. And once you've got the model, it is possible to sort of slightly generalize these and effectively give customers a big head start and give them a pre-trained model that they can then interact with and use on their own environments. So yeah, I think it's going to be one of the next big interesting things in this area.
Yep. Good feedback. Great question. Thanks. And happy reading. All right, Mark. We're good to go? Time for a beer? Or?
I think we need to thank a few people. Of course, being on stage here, everybody, the panel, Ruben for doing this. Most importantly, all of you guys to come over again for another year of the VDI Performance Summit. I hope it's been worthwhile. We'll send out a survey to learn what you want to see next year. But again, thank you to the sponsors. Thank you to you. And let's grab a drink. You can also catch that plane. The doors will be open to the field. So if you do like this soccer stadium and this this club, then you're more than welcome to touch the grass. Don't take it home, please. And let's have a drink and hang out for questions and have some fun. Thank you for being here.
Thanks.
Take care.